Hi everyone, I am Sandilia and me along with my team Group 5 will be presenting on the topic which corporate sustainable strategies are used in the steel sector. Well, every one of you might be aware of the day-to-day usage of steel in our activities and it ranges from various industries, be it building and infrastructure or the domestic appliances which we use at our households every day. So it is a no-brainer that steel production and consumption of an industry of a country is an indicator of a nation's economy, as it is in a way promoting 6 lakh jobs directly and 20 lakh jobs indirectly. Coming to the production of the steel in the Indian industry, it has risen over 67% over the last decade, and the figures are in front of you. Also, the industry is supposed to grow at a 4 to 7% as per IBEF, the Ministry of under the Ministry of Commerce report. Well, all of this seems to be positive about the steel industry. With the adoption of the Paris Agreement, there is a significant need for the steel industry to reduce its carbon emissions. Can you please move to the next slide, Shubham? The steel industry is one of the leading carbon-intensive industries, and the main reason behind it, the product is the production process, which I might not be going into the details. But then there is a dire need for us to get into the carbon neutrality part, for which the first step is moving from the blast furnace method to the EAF method, wherein the emissions will be significantly reduced, as it can be seen over there. For this, the government has adopted the GOI announced the steel scrap recycling policy, where it aims to reduce the import and process the recycled steel in an organized and environmental friendly manner. Well, over the course of the next 10 minutes, we'll be going through what are the ESG practices that the companies across the world are practicing. Can you please move to the next slide, Shubhu? The next one. The next one. Yeah. The first one to begin with the carbon, in the carbon neutrality part is a green hydrogen, which will be formed through the electrolysis of water, wherein by injecting this, there will be almost a carbon neutrality still. And though there are some limitations at present for this process to happen, over a period of time, the rates of hydrogen will be decreasing, which can be seen through the graph. Taking you through the next slide will be my friend Siddharth. He will be taking you further on the ESG practices.
Yeah, so move with the circular economy. Circular economy, our revolutionary concept where we share, lease, reuse, repair, refurbish, and recycle materials and products, minimizing waste and maximizing sustainability. Let's focus on steel, a material that plays a crucial role in our daily life. Despite having low greenhouse gas emissions, the steel industry is exploring ways to reduce its environmental impact. Why? Because steel is essential to the circular economy. It's a permanent material that can be recycled repeatedly without losing its properties. So, what's the deal with the circular economy versus the traditional one? The circular approach offers some fantastic benefits like resource conservation, energy efficiency, waste reduction, cost savings, long-term sustainability, positive brand reputation, etc. It's a win-win for our planet. Please move to the next slide. Yeah. So, how do we implement circular economy principles in the steel sector? First, by increasing recycled content in steel production, then we can embrace closed loop recycling systems and design products that are easy to disassemble and reuse. Waste valorization, collaboration with stakeholders, digitalization, and life cycle assessment are also key strategies. Now, let's talk about the advantages. Can you please move to the next slide? So, we are looking at resource conservation, energy efficiency, waste reduction, cost savings, longer product lifespan, innovation, opportunities, environmental stewardship, regulatory compliance, etc. It's not just being green, it's about being smart. So next slide, Shubham will continue.
Let's talk about carbon capture technology. So, carbon capture works as the name suggests. We are capturing carbon CO2 that is being emitted from the steel manufacturing plants. So there are three main techniques by which we can achieve carbon capture. So post-combustion capture, in which CO2 is separated after combustion of all the fossil fuels. This involves solvents and membranes. Then there's oxy-fuel combustion, where CO2 is where it is fossil fuels are burned in oxygen instead of air to produce pure CO2 that can be captured. And then there is direct air capture, where CO2 is removed before or during the combustion process. There are also, but this carbon capture technology being new also faces many challenges such as high cost, storage transportation, and there are also the lack of policy initiatives and lack of standards. Uh, Despite all this, there are several initiatives being taken by the entire industry, such as Responsible Steel, which is a not-for-profit certification program that audits steel companies on environmental and social governance standards. Also, the World Steel Association that it has an initiative where it collects the CO2 emissions of all the companies and set benchmarks for them. The UK Steel Charter is a commitment by the UK steel producers on the objectives like carbon reductions and clean air. And also UL Ecologo. It is a certification for steel manufacturing plants that are meeting sustainability standards. Also, industries, despite these industry steps, some companies are taking the steps by themselves, such as ArcelorMittal, which is a leader in this regard. They have promised targets to reduce the emission intensity by 25% in 2030 and go carbon neutral by 2050. Similarly, Tata Steel, Nucor, and POSCO has also have similar promises of reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. So, Shambhavi will be taking you through the next parts.
Driven, I'll be talking about the role of government in steel sustainability and to its progress towards sustainability targets. The steel industry in India operates within the regulatory framework of Environment Protection Act, navigating through the environmental clearances and stringent norms for air, water, and noise pollution given by CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board. To enhance its environmental and energy performance, the industry is actively focusing on reducing energy consumption, surpassing current global benchmarks, and maximizing the use of byproducts and waste from steel production into construction industry and road making. The pivotal role is played by the government and industry initiatives such as Charter on Corporate Responsibility for Environment Protection, the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which was launched by government in 2008, and its flagship scheme, Perform Achieve Trade Scheme. The PAT scheme has covered almost 163 steel plants in India. Various projects, especially in the SME steel sector, promote energy efficiency and the utilization of slag and other waste. The nationally determined contributions outline ambitious goals for emission reduction. The significant achievements have been made from 2005 to 2020, including the reductions in energy use, emission intensity, adoption of cleaner technologies in integrated steel plants, and successful meeting of 2020 emission intensity reduction targets. The industry is on a promising trajectory to achieve its 2030 goals. The key opportunity lies in the continuous adoption of best available technologies, increased utilization of steel, slag, and other byproducts in construction and road industry, collaborative efforts between the government and the industry. These are the emission norms for the steel industry given by Central Pollution Control Board. Next slide, please. Talking about the voluntary compliances, in addressing the urgent challenge of rising emissions and regulatory gaps in countries like India, voluntary compliance emerged as a powerful tool for environmental sustainability. Going beyond mandated requirements, voluntary initiatives offer flexibility that drives innovation within firms, fostering a commitment to reduce emissions. The case study in India's steel sector highlights that approximately 33% of firms through ISO 14001 certification achieved a 17 to 39% reduction in emissions intensity. This voluntary commitment not only signals environmental responsibility, but also brings cost benefit, motivating operational improvements. The study reinforces voluntary compliance as a policy tool, especially for emission-intensive sectors, underlining the need for incentive and increased awareness to promote low carbon growth. Now, I would like my friends to continue.
From mine to market. Environmental risks in steel sector. So as the steel go from mine to the market, there are various environmental risks and social risks. Coming to the environmental risk, the risk of deforestation, habitat destruction, air and water pollution, greenhouse gas emission, resource depletion, and energy intensities are there. The impact of these are there are large loss of biodiversity, adverse effect on air quality, a contribution similar to and it contributes significantly to the global warming, and there are long-term environmental degradation and high carbon footprint. There are further social risks in this labor conditioning, community displacement, health and safety concern, indigenous rights, and lack of transparency. In all these cause impacts like endangering the well-being of the workers, loss of homes, respiratory issues, violation of indigenous rights, and diminished trust from stakeholders. There are several responsible sourcing practices in the steel production. Starting with ethical sourcing protocol, which basically says that the company should stick with the human rights and the standards of responsible steel standard. There are further practices like conflict minerals free initiative, where the company should should report the conflicting zones and the armed conflict minerals that they are producing, and it should all be in the regulation like Dodd-Frank Act and disclosure of the use of the conflict minerals. Transparency, the supply chain management and the community engagement with with the mining region should be there. The company should help the local community to invest in the infrastructure, schooling, and all the reports should be published annually. Further, responsible sourcing practices are sustainable mining practices, certification programs, and fair trade. This basically says that the company should stick with minimizing water and energy consumption and promote biodiversity, and they should get the certificate like 14001 for environment management and stick with the fair trade practicing. Basically, it's not just merely a choice. A company should safeguard the environment, uplift the community, and move towards the true sustainability. It should be in their DNA, where they set the new standards for upcoming futures.
So coming to the stakeholder management part, basically it consists of four pillars: employees, customers, communities, and the government. For the first pillar, like employees, the key issues are scope of learning growth, numeration and benefits, health and safety. And the engagement platforms would be employee surveys, town hall meetings, training programs, and appraisal meetings as well. For the second part of consumers, consistent quality of products and services is required. Pricing options should be there, and just in time inventory should be available. And the engagement platform should be industry leading CRM tools, continuous feedback, and biennial customer satisfaction surveys as well. Coming to the main part, that is communities, which needs improving the life of people in surrounding villages, water conservation, local employment, and local sourcing as well. So the engagement platforms would be CSR initiatives, grievances mechanism, leadership by commitment, and many more. And coming to the last part of our pillar, like the government, the key issues are compliance with regulation, support of local government in community employment, and skill development. And the engagement platform would be advocacy through trade and industry bodies and close engagement with regulators. Please move to the next slide. Yes. So the engaging stakeholders, like how steel embraces collaboration. It basically includes four parts: key ideas, key strategies, benefits, and conclusion. For the key idea part, we know imperative of collaboration, of shared concern and collaborative solution is required, which will give us the key strategies for the community focus, digital dialogue, and taking the policy collaboration as well. Benefits have enhanced transparency and shared knowledge. For concluding part, the steel industry can forage a path towards future, and that is both prosperous and sustainable. The next part will be taken by Shweta, where he will explain the Tata Steel example. Thank you.
So, examining Tata Steel as a case study, we are going to analyze the company's strategic initiatives and operational practices aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that is SDGs. Since the launch of the SDGs, Tata Steel is committed to contributing to the achievement of SDGs through its operations, products, people, and community welfare practices. Tata Steel contributes to all the 17 SDGs, but today we are going to talk about the prioritized SDGs of Tata Steel. So, the first and the foremost of them is quality education, that is SDG 4. So there are some of the initiatives which Tata Steel has taken on the community development. So the first one is focus on vendor capability and development in skilling. Moreover, there are some education signature programs such as Masti Ki Pathshala and as well as some skill development and entrepreneurship workshops. They have also resulted in fruitful outcomes such as increase in aggregate household income, increase in the percentage of women in workforce, as well as diversity in workforce. The second one is clean water and sanitation. The first initiative that is taken by Tata Steel is zero effluent discharge projects, VO2K effluent recycling, as well as storm runoff recovery. Moreover, they have resulted in the following outcomes such as fresh water consumption, effluent discharge intensity, as well as wastewater treatment facilities have increased considerably. So the next two SDGs that we're going to talk about and on which Tata Steel has significantly focused on is sustainable cities and communities as well as responsible consumption and production. So some of the initiatives on this level are upgradation of facilities like electrostatic precipitator as well as air pollution control equipment, which has drastically resulted in the in emission intensity of dust, sulfur dioxide, and nitrous oxide. So moving on to, can you please change the next slide? Can you please move on to the next slide? Yes, so moving on to the ESG goals, that is environmental, social, and governance goals. Some of the environmental goals are achieving CO2 emission by Tata Steel by fiscal year 25. That is to achieve CO2 emission intensity by less than 1.8 tons. And the second one is the dust emissions, which also focuses on the achieving the specific dust emission intensity of 0.43 kilogram per tons for Tata Steel India by fiscal year 25. Moving on to the social sector, they want to achieve safety, that is, achieve zero harm by 2030, and as well as achieve 25% diversity in workforce by 2025. For the governance part, they want to achieve certified site certification for all steel making sites in India by fiscal year 25, as well as achieve certified steel certification for all sites in India by fiscal year 30. So the next part will be taken by Kalyan.
We have till now we have seen various challenges in the production of sustainable steel. Let us look at some more challenges, mainly being high energy consumption. We know that the production of steel is very resource intensive. Carbon emissions, raw material dependency. As of now, we are depending upon coal and iron ore to more extent compared to the other alternatives, waste generation, and water usage, supply chain complexity, and technological barriers. Apart from these challenges, we also don't have a framework in place to account and regulate the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions, which is quite challenging. And if you look at the opportunities in the sustainable steel production, we have recycling and circular economy, which we have already discussed. Technological innovations. There is a lot of scope in this particular aspect. Alternative materials. We have also seen how hydrogen replacing carbon as a material in this. Renewable energy integration. So till now, if we are using coal and coke. So if there are some alternatives, like if you use electric arc furnace, and if the electricity is generated by some renewable energy sources like wind energy, solar energy, and other forms. With this, we can cut down the carbon emissions. Collaboration and standards. We can collaborate with other countries which are far ahead in this particular process. And there are also some standards and standardized certifications. Government policies and incentives. We also seen a few government incentives like production link incentive and national steel policy and all. So these are the major opportunities that all the steel sector industries have. And the consumer awareness. Till now, we are only looking at the cost perspective. So if you move on to how a sustainable steel can help both the seller and the buyer also, it will help a lot. And coming to the main role of a G20 summit. So if you see, the term sustainability has been coined in one of the summits. So G20 summit has a major role for Indian steel industry, because G20 has suggested that we can contribute and we can also collaborate with major steel production countries like Japan, China, and other major countries. And it emphasizes that there should be a dialogue and cooperation between the G20 countries, so which will not only help us to collaborate in producing the sustainable steel, but it also helps us to understand what are the better practices in other industries and in other countries also. And exchange best practices among national policymakers and regulators. Can you move to the next slide? So before ending the presentation, this is one of the major opportunity that is poses to all the countries and all the industries. The global green steel market is expected to experience a rapid growth with a projected market size of around 624 billion US dollars by 2032, registering a compound annual growth of 123.94%. Thank you.